Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Rookie Edition in the 2nd anniversary tournament. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, so good luck and let's go! So, the thing here that we really here from the start need to have in mind is that this is a playthrough not displaying the tournament wins, because the tournament is not, it's not up and running yet, and therefore this is just various type of win from recording, from regulatory play and also shootouts. But I'm going to do my best to, as always, give you an explanation that's going to cover like headwind, crosswind, tailwind, if there is any difference between those three. Also, before I take my first shot, do not forget to subscribe to the channel, be a sub, hit that bell button so you do get the notification every time there's a live stream or a new video. Also, check out patreon.com/golfclashtommy for training sessions, but also to get the text guides for the tournament either early or also to get the updated text guide. So, here in this hole number 1, I'm playing with 2.5 bar side spin with a Marlin ball and 1 bar of topspin. You can see I'm playing with a quarterback level 9. And even though you have a lower quarterback, like lower level quarterback, I suggest that you play with a quarterback on this hole. It's going to give you a much better accuracy and also a much better ball guideline to rely on. So even if you have a quarterback level 4, 5, 6 or more, then you play with a quarterback. The thing that can happen here is that if you have, like, let's say a quarterback level 4, you have to either play with a power 3 ball to get over and aim at the same spot like I'm doing, or you play with a Marlin ball or just a basic ball and bounce it before the rough over to the platform where I was aiming to. You decide, doesn't really matter, you play with the way that you feel comfortable in doing. Also, when it comes to the drive, we need to do an over adjustment of 10% due to the slight downhill approach. So, for the second shot here, we are not going to add anything for elevation, so we're just going to play it as it is, and we're going to bounce over the rough. The thing with the this hole of the Parc de Paris, and also Parc de Paris in general, is that with a yellow ball guideline here, as we do have with the Goliath, and the very bright surface that we are having, it's very tough to see the ball guideline all to be spot on in our eyes, you know. And the thing that we do need to do with this adjustment here is that we do need to play with somewhere in between half a bar to 1 bar of topspin if having crosswind or headwind. If we are not having that and we have tailwind, then we play without topspin, without backspin, just play it like standard. We're not going to have any side spin whatsoever and just going to try to have the ball guideline pointing directly to the pin. This is not an easy adjustment to get this ball in the hole, as we do have 3 things that could happen with our ball. First, we do have a bounce where it's bouncing slightly right, like the fairway slightly right to left, and then we bounce to the other side that also slightly right to left, but also downhill. So many things needs to go right to get this ball in the hole. But I do suggest that this way is the better way to play it, as we don't have enough backspin. If we would be having more backspin, like let's say 6, 7 or 8 bars, then we would in that case go and we would be playing with that long iron club and go directly to the beginning of the fairway, to the fairway just before the fringe, and go with max backspin. Hole number 2 is a par 3 from the Nordic Fjords, and here I'm going to play with max side spin to the 3 bars of side spin to the right and 3 bar side spin to the right and 1 bar backspin, having the red ring just by the rough there on the right. And then we're going to adjust for maximum numbers with a 10% over adjustment. You can see here that I'm actually going to be very close to maximum range with my club, but with a power 3 ball. So the thing that we do need to have in mind here, that if we're going to play with the backbone or the Saturn, we need to play with a power 3 ball. If we're going to play with a Goliath, we don't have to play with a power 3 ball. I highly suggest you play with a power 0 or power 1 ball as most. So it all depends on what you do want to do, because otherwise this is going to happen. Take a look now, with the Saturn, and then go up to the Viper. There's going to be in between clubs, and that's going to be very, very tough, as we either have to overpower or basically underpower our shot if we would be having this type of setup. Also, you can see the adjustment with 3 bars of side spin to the right. I would highly suggest you go with max side spin to the right and move your target a little bit more to the left. So, and play maybe with the blue ring just by the rough on the right instead, to give yourself a little bit more margin for a risk of hitting it great to the right. But this was hole number 2, and we're gonna go over to hole number 3. Another course of the Nordic Fjords, and here it's a par 5. This is the first par 5, and I would honestly say that I do really like this one. So I'm going to play this one with max side spin to the left, and I'm also going to play this one with in this case, without any topspin or backspin. You can see I'm trying to, but in this example I'm playing with 1 bar of topspin, but I would say that you could play this one without any topspin. It's not necessary to play with topspin, not necessary to play with backspin. If you don't feel like that's something you can do, you can play with it, but like in my book, it's better to go without. If we can play without any type of like measurements when it comes to spin and curl, that's the absolute best thing. Then we can just focus on lining it up properly. The thing that I do with my landing position is that I put my yellow ring just by the rough on the left, and then I'm going always max side spin to the left. We could go with a slight amount of curl to the left if we want to, not necessary, but we can do if we do feel uncomfortable with the fact that we can hit the ball great and be maybe into the rough in that case. Last with the drive is that we need to do an over adjustment of 10%. Very important, as otherwise we're going to be short or we're going to be long or too much to the side depending on where the wind is blowing. Our opponent is going to go directly here to the right, and I think it's very important in this example to show that and show really what happens. And now someone is going to say, yeah, but it works for me. Yeah, sure, it did. But look how much obstacles you're putting yourself like in between here. You have rocks, you have rough, and you cannot go a straight line to the pin. And that's why left side is so much better, because we always need to try to find an easy way to put ourselves with an opportunity to go straight at the pin. The only mistake done in this guide, in my opinion, is that I picked the wrong wood club. I do want to have a little bit more distance, so I don't have to rely on having to visualize a longer ball guide line with topspin with a biped level 7. That's tough for everyone, in my opinion. So in this case, I do have to also go with a little bit of overpower, because that is how I read the ball guide line. And now going with overpower, always going to risk and make the fact easier to go great on either direction. So play with a club that has at least 170 yards of distance. Hole number 4. This is a par 3 of the Parc de Paris, and a par 3 that I've gone from very much disliking a lot to like. And the thing that we need to have in mind, that if we are very unlucky, we can be in getting the thing that is called the fringe glitch, or like fairway, or in terms of it. The thing that means with that is that when you bounce it on the fairway, it all of a sudden just takes an enormous amount of speed and roll over the complete green. It's happening sometimes, but not that speed that you see there. Very rarely, but it happens. The thing that we do want to do here is that we are going to play with a long iron. That's very important to have in mind. And I do want to play with the backbone if I can. You can see as well that we are going to have a natural push from the bounce to the left. Therefore, we need to play with side spin to the right. 3 bars of backspin with max side spin to the right. Trying to aim a little bit to the left here. And I would honestly say that this one looks really good, but the problem is here that when we do have the wind coming a little bit right to left and have a natural natural effect of the bounce that we're going to push more to the left, we need to go with some curl as well, as we are naturally going to miss this one on the left side. Last but not least, as if I didn't say that, you need to over adjust your shot with 10% for that, for the tee shot. Hole number 5. This is a par 5 as well of the Parc de Paris. Very tough one. I would say if we do get tailwind, pull out a power 3, power 4, power 5 ball if you do have that. Go max overpower with the club that gives, or with the drive that gives you the most distance. In this example, we do have, of course, the extra mile, and therefore I'm going to play that one over the quarterback. If you do have a big topper, you can play with a big topper, but then you need to play with a big topper on the first piece of fairway, bounce it over the rough over to the other side of fairway. And if we can stay away from doing that, then it's going to be a little bit easier for us to get that ball to stay on the fairway. The thing that I do there with my drive as well is that I'm going as far as I can, and I'm not really afraid of going into the rough there on top, as with a power 3 ball and with a decent rough iron, of course not with a beginner rough iron, but with a decent rough iron like a level 1 Nirvana, a level 3, 4 Racer, something like that, then we should be able to reach for the green for the second shot. No problem. The drive as well, for the last thing there, we need to make an over adjustment of 25%. That's a lot, but very, very important. I've been having 20% in my notes before, but have been slightly changing that as I do feel that I haven't had the elevation adjustment correct. So 25% is what I'm going to use. So second shot here, now we're going to play it slightly uphill. And for those of you that are playing with very accurate numbers, then I'm going to say that you're going to have to play this one as -5%, which means that I'm going to play it uphill. So the ball is going to be less affected by the wind than normal. We come to the green, and that is something that we do need to be very happy with to make an eagle on that one. Many players will make a par. There will be it will be very rare to see some an albatross on that one. Hole number 6 we have here, and hole number 6 here, it's very important for us to have in mind that this ball is first and foremost going to be a little bit more affected by the wind, so we do need to make an over adjustment of 10%. I would say this is also one of the par 4s that I do really like. Unfortunately for our opponent, he times out, and that's of course never good. And you can see here as well that with a power 3 ball we're having an enormous amount of distance, and that kind of makes it or breaks it in the fact that, let's say we would be having like a 4 or 5 mile per hour tailwind, then we maybe could try to go for the green. At least that is something that could be possible to do with a hook shot. But I changed to a mauling ball as the wind is not in my favor, and I'm just going to aim here on the fairway, going with 2.5 bar backspin, 2.5 bar side spin to the left, put myself on this fairway in some form, adding 10% to my adjustment, and then I take my shot. This is going to put ourselves up for either like a minimum distance with a long iron or a maximum distance with our short iron, and both of those shots are pretty much, I like them, both of them. So our opponent here is with this type of wind, and now have in mind that he timed out, so therefore he is having a different wind from the tee than I have. And he's going to try to go over. But this type of wind with a power 5 ball, like a berserker, if you won some in the golden shot, then you could potentially put yourself directly over to the fairway. But with a lack of curl with your club, it's going to be very hard to get it to green if you're not using some kind of a trick shot like hook or slice on either right or left side. So be really aware of that. We kind of want to, if we go for it, we do need to make sure that we can go for it as well, so we're not putting ourselves in the water and losing a shot on a pretty easy par 4. 4 bars of backspin, we are in minimum distance of our club, and then we're going to go with an over adjustment of 10%. I'm not doing this in this example, but that is something that I would really like you to do. As for in my book, this shot is affected more by the wind than it looks. We bounce very nicely, coming in very nicely, and just missed the hole by just a tiny little bit. But there you have it, hole number 6, and we go to hole number 7. Hole number 7, we are going to have to add and make an over adjustment of 15%. Very important there as well, because otherwise we're going to be very off. We can either play it on the first piece of fairway there to the left, or we can play it on the fairway just by the green. And it all depends on how much backspin you do have on your wood club, in my opinion. And because if we do want to play it, we can first start with, if we want to play it like our opponent is doing here, we do need to play with a power 2, power 3 ball, so we're giving ourselves a shot with a long iron, instead of playing with a wood club in a very strange way. Or we need to do, or we can play with, oh, I'm sorry. Or we can play with wood club that we do go with directly over the rough if we do have the backspin. 3.5 bar backspin, max side spin to the right. I aim straight at the pin, and now it's very important that we do hit the spot that we are adjusting for. As you can see, it's very bumpy and it's very easy to bounce too much to the left, too much to the right. And this is going to be a very tough par 3 to make an hole-in-one on. But I do believe, as playing from the front tee, this is going to be a better way than playing like we will do from second and from third tee to play on the first piece of fairway. As again, I don't like to play with a long iron with topspin. I'd rather play with backspin with my wood club. And this ball is coming in very, very close. Get it hole! So very close to making hole-in-one there on hole number 7. And that leads us and makes us to go to hole number 8. And here I've slightly changed my mind a little bit from playing this one of the Eagle Peak before. I always stayed away from the right side, as I did believe that we're going to have the trees in play many times. But the thing that was noticed was that if we just get past the first tree section, then we're going to be able to shoot over the trees if we want to. And therefore I would say like this: if you do have tailwind, then you play with a power 3 ball, you go max over power, max topspin, and also max side spin to the right, as to give yourself as much distance as possible there on the right side. Here in this example here, you can see our opponent having those trees in a way, but are like far enough in front, like before it, so we can play over it. I play, in this example, another route, and first we need to have in mind that we need to make an over adjustment of 20% when playing this way. And max side spin to the left, which is 2.5 bar side spin, with a max topspin, which is 4.5 bars of topspin with the extra mile. We don't have to play with a power 3 ball or power 2 ball. I'm actually playing it with a Marlin ball. And then we're going to adjust with an over adjustment, as I said, of 20%. And we need to apply a tiny bit of curl, which is like just the ball inside the adjustment ring there to the left. And then we take our shot. The curl to the left is going to help our ball to be pushed a little bit more to the left, because this fairway is sloping slightly to the right. And the more we roll to the right, the harder it's going to be to approach the pin, as we're going to have the trees to the right in play. So, what to do to help ourselves to not having to go with that much curl? Play with a katana, play with a quasar that is going to give you more side spin. I mean a side spin 2 or a side spin 3 ball. Here you can see with a club with enough backspin, which our opponent is having with the backbone level 9. Of course, backbone level 9 is not that often featured in rookie division, as it's a very, it's a highly upgraded club. But that with that backspin, it is absolutely possible to go directly towards the pin. And if you don't want to do that, you can use the back of the green and make the ball fall down towards the pin. Our turn. And you can see here now, I'm going to choose a slightly different approach. And I'm actually going to bounce myself towards the pin, using, in this case, 1 bar of topspin. The thing that I feel here though is that with tailwind we don't need to use topspin. We can go with half a bar of topspin as max, as we're still going to have enough speed to roll directly towards the pin. Having the blue ring just touching the rough on the top is a very neat and preferable reference to work with as well. We have in this scenario as well, I'm adding 10% extra for this shot, just to make sure that we're not having any problems. And even though it doesn't look like it's downhill, it definitely affects the ball a little bit more. Coming in very nicely, just missed the pin there on the left side. And that brings us to hole number 9. Hole number 9, par 5 off the Eagle Peak. This, I would say, with a tailwind, then it's not going to be that hard. With a headwind, this is going to be hard, because then we either have to be a little bit lucky going over to the fairway there on top, or we have to play it on the right side. I would say that I would definitely suggest to go straight forward, try to bounce directly over the rough there if possible. Therefore, I'm using a power 3 ball to give myself that distance. I'm also using max overpower here, as I know that with a great shot, left or right, we do have a lot of room on this fairway. You can see we have a lot to the left a lot to the right, and that is going to make the ball stop on the fairway nonetheless. Worst case scenario, we make a very poorly drive, like we hit good on either direction, then we will have to suit ourselves, in my opinion. Because, you know, I hardly recommend to go with overpower when we play from front tee, as it shouldn't be necessary. But with the distance having on this one and the problem that could be coming up, playing on the right side is going to be very, very high. And therefore we do try in all means to go on the left side. If we would be in that case trying to just aim for bouncing in the rough to roll out on the fairway, that is going to be better than having all those trees, trying to do a very tough rough bump with a wood club if you're playing on the right side. Last but not least, we do need to make an over adjustment with 20% of that drive, as we're playing it massively downhill, so therefore a tailwind is much higher than normally. Second shot, I go for the rough bump, but the mistake I make in this way is that I'm not having the club for it. 1.5 bar topspin is not going to be enough. We do need to have at least 2.5 bar topspin, in my opinion. So therefore, you pick the wood club that gives you distance and also 2.5 bar topspin at least, which most likely going to be the big dog, or maybe the horizon if you do have that one up, like not leveled up, but unlocked. That is going to be the right word. So this was the playthrough for Rookie Division in the second anniversary tournament. A mix of holes from Eagle Peak, Parc, Nordic Fjords, and we're going to have as well, we're going to have a mix of 4 courses here. We do have as well the Porthello Cove, and you can practice Parc de Paris on tour number 4. You can practice the Nordic Fjords on tour number 5. When it comes to the Porthello Cove, and when it comes to, in that case, Eagle Peak, you cannot practice any of them from the front tee. Very important to have in mind. So, thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to check down in the video description for other links, direct links to especially the timestamps for the holes in this playthrough. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Good luck in the second anniversary tournament.